Hi, everybody. The movie kicks off with Rick enjoying a wild, steamy night with his alien companion, a woman named Bogan, but no sooner does the moment end, she goes and kills the vibe by telling him her family's throwing some kind of ceremonial tournament, and she wants Rick to come along. She figures he's tolerable enough to maybe be a decent candidate, or at least not a total embarrassment. Rick's not exactly jumping at the invite, and Bogan, picking up on his hesitation, figures he's still holding on to the pain of losing his wife, who passed away like 40 years ago. Trying to ease the tension, she tells him to just think of it like a regular old family cookout with the folks. No big deal, just burgers and awkward small talk. Still, Rick lays it out straight. Maybe it's not such a great idea for her to get any closer to him because chances are he's gonna find something he doesn't like about her, or worse, he'll just get bored like he always does. That's just how it plays out. Those words hit Bogan where it hurts. Visibly pissed, gets up from the bed, ready to bounce, and throws it in his face that what they had was never serious anyway. And while she's at it, she says she just can't wrap her head around the fact he never found a single flaw in his dead wife. She scoffs, saying maybe the only reason his wife seemed perfect was because she didn't stick around long enough to disappoint him. Then she storms out, leaving Rick sitting there in silence, staring at the ceiling like it's got all the answers. That's when Rick drops a pretty twisted bomb. Truth is, he don't really got many memories of Diane. The Omega machine wiped out every single piece of her that ever existed. Even Beth, his own daughter, believes without knowing it, that her memories of her mom are real, when in fact they've been tampered with too. After laying that out, Rick's a little thrown to see Bogan dressed up looking like she's ready to bounce, but instead of trying to stop her with some sappy speech, he just suggests they keep the fun going in bed. To his surprise, she shoots back that what she's wearing is actually perfect for more playtime, making it clear she's still down to stick around a little longer. Later on, Beth and her space clone are chilling on the couch watching some intergalactic TV, some real weird show where a knife man's got stab a baby or something. That's when Rick walks in looking totally wiped out, bags under his eyes, and his daughters glance over and ask if by any chance he's been messing with his alien friend again. Rick shrugs it off, says she's just a friend, and Beth, without missing a beat, backs him up, saying she knows damn well he'll never get over Diane. Rick doesn't say a word, just grunts, grabs a bottle from the fridge, and downs it like it's the only thing that makes sense while that crazy baby stabbing scene keeps playing on TV unfazed by anyone. At that point, Jerry steps in to stick up for Rick, saying that as far as he can remember, the guy's actually been a decent father. The Beths ain't buying it, shooting him skeptical looks, but Jerry keeps going. He says Rick even showed up at their wedding and swears he invented Nutella to prove he was all in with the family. His words though just leave everyone confused. Even Rick's sitting there looking like, wait, what? That's when Jerry drops the real curveball. Dead serious, he asks if any of them actually remembers anything from back in the day. Rick, don't waste a second. He dives into his son-in-law's brain trying to figure out what the hell's going on, and sure enough, he finds something buried deep, a weird little fragment floating around called the Rick memory. Through a mental projection, all these memories start playing out, showing Rick right there in the room when one of his grandkids was born, fully supporting his daughter through the whole emotional roller coaster. Still, both versions of Beth get a little suspicious thinking those memories might be fake, but Rick tells them now they really happened just back when he was trying out that whole Good Samaritan phase of his acting like he actually gave a damn. He adds that it didn't last long. Turns out caring too much made him sloppy. Then he lights a cigarette with a shrug like that one experiment in empathy damn near broke him. He adds that these memories actually come from Bird Person who after breaking free sneaked into Rick's mind. Later, when Rick and Jerry swapped brains, that memory somehow migrated into Jerry's consciousness. Summer, watching the projection, throws a sarcastic jab, saying it looks like Bird Person remembered her grandpa as some kind of good-looking dude, but Rick gets serious, explaining that these foreign memories are showing up in Jerry's brain like a tumor, more like mental cancer messing with his head. In one of those memories you see Rick driving his family after Summer's birth when suddenly he starts getting sucked into an interdimensional portal before disappearing for good. Rick tells Jerry to take care of his family and makes it clear he loved every single second with them. After crossing the portal, Rick's tossed through a violent quantum tunnel that spits him out into a containment room. Surprisingly, the Rick memory manages to contact Rick through some kind of machine, and the first thing it does is call him out for tearing it away from the family without hesitating. This memory projection breaks loose from the facility and heads into some desolate wasteland. No signs of civilization anywhere around. It moves fast, fueled by desperation, knowing this might be its only shot at freedom. The silence around it feels heavy, like the world itself forgot this place ever existed. Rick explains that this world was built so vast and complicated his memory version of himself is going to be stuck there for eternity, no chance to break free, trapped in that endless loop forever. He says it's like being locked inside a maze with no exit, where every turn just leads back to the same place. It's a prison made of memories, and there ain't no key to set him free. With that job done, Rick unplugs Jerry and starts wiping all traces of that past from his memory. As they take Jerry away, Beth can't help but be amazed at her dad's ability to handle such an intrusive memory without losing his mind. But she can't resist throwing shade, pointing out he handles alien drama better than remembering her exes. Elsewhere inside that artificial world, the memory Rick, alone and trapped, starts cursing out his free counterpart. He claims Rick's jealous of him, jealous of his virility, his emotional fullness, refusing to give up. He starts working on a way out, scavenging bits and pieces scattered around the room until he builds a handheld drill. He uses it to drill through the floor, determined to keep escaping and reclaim control, even if it's all in a fake world. Meanwhile outside, Beth watches her dad silently watching the sunset, and she says he looks real lonely. But her space clone Beth fires back, saying Rick's got hookups on the regular and that he even uses toys neither of them could ever wrap their heads around. A little while later, tired of pounding beers, Rick decides to head back to his workshop. There he gets to work building a brand new brain computer, the kind of machine he's gonna use to jump back into that prison world he created himself. Once inside, Rick pushes forward with a fierce determination. Past every security system and sterilization checkpoint until he hits a shooting range. There he comes face to face with a younger version of his wife, looking at the woman he once loved. He's hit hard with emotion and decides to start a memory transfer. Right then, a portal opens up over the whole building and swallows him whole. When it's all over, Rick wakes up confused about what just happened until he finds a note he left for himself. The note. He extracted the last memory he had of his wife so he could finally set himself free emotionally and be able to love again. He sits there for a moment, letting it all sink in, realizing this might be the fresh start he desperately needed. For the first time in a long while, there's a flicker of hope in his eyes with that weight lifted. Rick feels brave enough to call Bogan and tells her he's accepting her invitation and will show up to meet her family. Hours later, while Beth's looking for her dad in the lab, she stumbles on the brain computer. When she powers it up, she's shocked to find the Rick memory in the final stages of building a big interference tower. This thing overheats the system just right, letting the memory finally transfer itself into Beth's brain without anyone catching on. Beth freezes for a second, realizing the weight of what's happening. She knows this could change everything, but wonders how much trouble it might bring along with it. A little while after, when the family's sitting down for breakfast, everyone's taken aback when Rick's partner shows up. After the introduction, she explains she's there because Rick agreed to come to the family meetup space. Beth's skeptical, remarking that's not the kind of choice her dad usually makes. That's when Rick drops the truth. He pulled the memory of his wife, Diane, out of his mind so he could his heart to love again. Hearing that, Beth starts processing what she just learned, carefully stashing that memory away. She demands answers from her folks, not knowing that meanwhile, the Rick memory's trying to stay low, hiding in a corner of the room, but he ain't quiet for long. He sneaks into the ventilation system and hacks into one specific memory where Rick decides to leave his daughter behind to chase after another version of himself. Even though Beth asks where he's heading, he just shrugs it off, saying he's going to work and tells her not to wait up. He doesn't want to get into it, keeping things vague to avoid stirring up any questions, but his plan falls flat. The weight of the Rick memory causes a crack to form in the ceiling of the memory world, giving away where he's hiding. With no other choice, he tries to play it cool and tells Beth he was just fixing the roof, but that he's already back. Beth, sharp as ever, catches on right away. She notices his hair is a different length. Still, Rick tries to distract her with hugs and promises of spending time together, even saying they might be able to save her mom. He's desperate to keep her focused elsewhere so she doesn't figure out what he's really up to. Meanwhile, back on Bogan's home planet, Rick gets a chance to meet her quirky family. He admits he's actually enjoying it, surprised at how likable they turn out to be, but Bogan throws in sarcastic warning, it ain't gonna be all smooth sailing. Her unbulgogi's a real pain in the neck, and to make matters worse, her ex, some guy named Jack Poo, has been watching them non-stop since they landed, clearly not happy about it. Rick just shrugs it off, saying he's dealt with worse, but you can tell he's keeping one eye on that Jack Poo guy. When they finally reach the family house, the hosts give Rick a formal welcome, calling him an intelligent primate. Straight up, Rick lays it out. He's known Bogan for a long time, but the intimate stuff between them, that's only been going on for a few months. This revelation sends her parents into a panic because on their planet, having sex with a female automatically means you got to fight a duel for honor, no warning, no second chances. Rick gets dragged into an arena to face off against Jack Poo. The crowd's already buzzing, the tension thick in the air, and Rick knows this fight's gonna test more than just his strength. It's about respect, pride, and surviving a world way different from anything he's used to. Bogan's pissed, scolding Rick for not taking the time to learn the local customs, but tries to explain, asking for some slack. He just got emotionally free from the memories of his late wife, so cut him some damn slack. The fight kicks off with only two ways to end. One surrenders or one dies. Bogan, worried sick, begs Rick not to kill her ex. Jack Poo throws the first punch, pushing Rick back and forcing him into defense mode. Meanwhile, in another storyline, the Rick memory teams up with an adult Beth. They're on a mission hunting for Diane, their missing mother, digging through clues, desperate to find her whereabouts. Their journey takes them through dark corners and forgotten places, each step bringing them closer to the truth. In a key scene, Beth catches her dad opening a safe right at that moment. The memory of her mother shows up to pick her up from school. The Rick memory jumps in, making the kid repeat a crucial phrase, a statement that confirms her mom's trapped inside a box in the basement, and that only Beth, her own daughter, can save her. The weight of that truth hits Beth hard, knowing she's the only one who can bring her mom back from that dark place. The mission moves forward, and we cut to another memory, a trip to a park where young Beth steals a wallet. After that, Rick starts a tough martial arts training with her, using it as prep work. Once she's built up enough confidence, Beth tests her skills in a way tougher environment, a forest full of traps. She proves she's quick on her feet, dodging a hail of knives and outsmarting the challenge back in the present, outside space. Beth approaches her other self, asking if it's really okay for both of them to be against their dad's love life. Just then, Summer shows up and Beth takes the chance to ask if there's any spot in the basement where Rick might be hiding some important stuff. They all exchange looks, the tension in the air, knowing there's more to Rick's secrets than he lets on. Summer shrugs, saying she hasn't seen nothing obvious, but with Rick, you never really know what's under the surface. When asked, Summer gets suspicious that her mom might be trying to sabotage Rick's new relationship, but Beth clears it up. Her mom actually wants to do something special and meaningful for their dad. After hearing that, Summer lowers her guard and spills that, yeah, there's a secret spot in the basement designed by their grandpa that might hold some important info. She warns Beth to watch her steps, saying their grandpa kept things locked up tight and whatever's hidden there. For just anyone to discover, convinced she ain't in this alone, Beth heads down to the basement. They're using the brain computer. She connects straight to her mom's isolated memory. Through that link we see Rick memory pilot in a capsule ship heading straight for Diane, who recognizes him right away. Moved by his presence, she runs to hug him and without hesitation, they dive into a passionate exchange. Wasting no time, Rick memory takes Diane and transports her straight into Beth's mind, trying to merge their memories and keep her safe there. Just then Space Beth catches her, instantly noticing something off about her behavior. She confronts her, reminding her that their dad was never really around during her teenage years like she thinks. Beth hesitates, caught off guard by the accusation, but she knows she can't back down now. There's too much at stake and the truth's gonna come out whether they like it or not. Getting even more suspicious, she asks if Beth's unusual behavior might be because of Rick Memory's influence. Beth, trying to play it cool, says it's all just in her head. She even offers to prove it by showing that the memory is still locked up tight inside her mental prison, but as the other Beth gets distracted for a second, she makes a move, trying to knock her out with the computer. The plane crashes and burns when she finds out the space Beth's skull is actually made of metal. That fail sparks off a fierce fight between them. Beth skillfully shows off the martial arts moves she picked up during her training sessions with her dad, Memory, while they're throwing down. Space Beth pleads for her to stop, saying there's no point in fighting like this, but Beth is dead set on going through with it, and at just the right moment she snaps Space Beth's neck with cold determination, making it crystal clear that only by doing this can she protect her family. Meanwhile, deep inside the shared mental space, Rick Memory explains everything that's happening to Diane and promises they'll soon head off together to a secluded world where they can live forever. But then he starts to notice something's off. The whole process should have already finished by now. A growing sense of unease spreads through him as he realizes time isn't moving the way it's supposed to. Worried, he leaves to investigate the cause of the problem, leaving Diane alone for a moment. That's when Beth suddenly appears in front of Diane. Diane tries to explain that she's her mother, but Beth doesn't buy it. She pushes her away, saying she looks way too young to be her mom. Right then, Diane drops a bombshell. She reveals a shocking truth. Not only is Diane a memory, but Beth is one too. The revelation shakes Beth to her core, leaving her questioning everything she thought she knew about herself. Conflicted and stunned, she struggles to process this new reality. The revelation hits Beth hard, leaving her emotionally shattered. Diane uses that moment of confusion to make her escape. When she reunites with Rick Memory, he admits that without meaning to, he just gave a memory its own consciousness. On top of that, he confesses he's been messing with his daughter's mind this whole time just to keep alive the one thing left of Diane. Her memory back in the real world, Rick finally manages to take down Jack Poo in a fight, but instead of feeling triumphant, he's frustrated. He's pissed at himself for backing down to what everyone else thought, and now he can't even take out his partner's ex Bogan. Clearly disappointed, calls him out for completely ruining her family visit. She also accuses him of never really managing to clear his wife out of his head. Rick, on the other hand, just reminds him that he warned him from the very start getting too close to him would only bring trouble, and sooner or later he'd regret it. At this point, when Jack Poo says that from his perspective, his wife's death was never really an issue, we see Rick decide to walk away from the tournament through a portal. He heads back to his lab where he finds the body of his space daughter, but thanks to a mechanical tweak, he manages to bring her back to life. She's got a robotic spine that lets him reactivate her. Once he fully understands the situation, Rick warns that his daughter's conscious memory could cause him a mental breakdown. Still, he's confident he can fix it once he destroys the memories from his own youth. He knows the path won't be easy, but he's determined to see it through no matter what. Meanwhile, we see Beth running down the highway inside the memory, past Rick guides Diane through most recent memories of his daughter, aiming to create a direct connection with her in the present. Diane admits she's nervous about the beast they've unleashed, but Rick calms her down, saying if their daughter isn't actively hunting them yet, it just means she's not exactly a great tracker. He tells her they still have some time to figure things out and prepare for whatever is coming next. Despite the tension, Rick's confidence gives Diane a small but much-needed sense of hope. But soon we find out that Beth is actually gathering all the memory versions of herself. After revealing the truth to them, she recruits these versions to join her personal army. At the same time, Rick and Space Beth manage to track down Beth, who responds by throwing a drink right at the windshield of their ship. Inside the memory, just as the pair is about to reach the most recent memory, they get ambushed by Beth's army, including two sadistic kid versions, who don't hesitate to jump at them, aiming to take them out. Still, Rick and Diane dodge the attacks long enough to take cover inside the car Beth used to escape. At that moment, they tell her how proud they are of her. Once they get moving, they launch another attack on Rick's ship. When Memory, Rick admits he doesn't know what to do next, he points out that if they go back, the real Beth will destroy them without hesitation. The stakes are higher than ever. Every move could be their last. Faced with this memory, Beth makes a bold and unexpected choice. She floors it, driving straight toward a cliff. Meanwhile, in the real world, Beth is already falling through the air, but right before she hits the ground, her father swoops in and catches her. The tension in the moment is thick, and you can almost hear the pounding of hearts as time seems to slow down. It's a narrow escape that changes everything in an instant. Right away, the battle between the Beths kicks back into gear. While Space Beth tries to explain that the memories she has of their parents aren't real, Beth refuses to let them be taken away, but because of the mental breakdown she's going through, Beth soon gets overwhelmed and collapses. Crushed by a pounding headache and convinced she can't go on, she snatches the weapon from her space version, intending to end her own life just as she pulls the trigger. A sudden surge of clarity flashes through her mind, stopping her in her tracks. She realizes that fighting herself won't solve anything, and maybe there's still hope to find the truth. Inside Beth's mind, her army quickly overwhelms their parents, accusing them of shaping Beth's identity and warning they'll erase Rick's memory before the real Beth dies. At that moment, with tears in her eyes, Beth admits she feels deeply confused. Sometimes she thinks she loves her father, but at other times she hates him just as fiercely. Her delirium breaks when Rick shows up. He confesses that he was never really there during the important moments in her life and that someone took advantage of that emotional absence to manipulate her. He promises to make things right, even if it means facing the consequences of his past mistakes. Beth, still shaken, begins to realize that healing might be possible after all. However, he says he's here now, ready to open up emotionally and be there for her like he never was before. From that moment on, Beth's memory gives in. Invisibly moved, she embraces her father. Even though Beth's army is surprised by Rick's sudden fatherly attitude, he uses that vulnerable moment to inject something into his daughter's memory. That small act sparks a flicker of hope within Beth, reminding her that not all is lost. It's a fragile but important step toward healing and understanding. Back in reality, Rick tells her she shouldn't feel guilty since nobody, not even him, can clearly remember his wife. He only holds on to a small fragment of her. He also warns her that made-up memories can be dangerous because they tend to act selfishly. As an example, he mentions that the memory of his wife was involved in kidnapping their own daughter. Rick stresses that her real mother loved her way more than any memory ever could. These words deeply comfort Beth, and then Rick goes ahead and wipes the memory of her parents from her mind. Later, when Beth meets up with her family, she tells them with a hint of sadness that she's okay. But when they ask about Rick's memory, they sadly find out it's gone. Despite the loss, Beth tries to stay strong, knowing some things can't be changed. She silently vows to carry the love she feels forward even without those memories. Rick, for his part, shows clear outrage, pointing out that memory manipulated his own daughter and in the end was nothing more than an abstract construct that never truly had a life of its own. Using that as his excuse, Rick gets up from the table saying he's going to go find Bogan for some intimate time. But once he's far out at the edge of the galaxy, we see him establish contact with the memories of Rick and his wife, whom he's returned to prison world he created himself. During this final warning, Rick tells them straight up that if they dare come near his family again, the brain computer will blow up. He also expresses disgust at the idea of both memories staying young forever, keeping it on. He adds that most likely once he's back home, the memory of that interaction will be wiped clean. Finally, he says goodbye to his remembered wife with a touch of nostalgia and throws the computer into space. Right at that moment he gets a message from Bogan, but Rick doesn't seem too eager to answer. Instead, he stares off into the void. Austin thought about what just transpired. Before the episode ends, we see scientists from the Mr. Poopy Pants species studying this version of Rick, trying to figure out who he's communicating with. His wife admits she doesn't know, but says the atoms in this entity vibrate at a frequency never recorded in their reality. Faced with this, the scientists ask if she thinks this being has come to replace her deceased husband and what they should do with him. She just responds with a look of barely restrained fury. Like and subscribe for more interesting movie like this. Turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.